Being a 7 is crazy. It's not only crazy to be one, but you think we're crazy. So many times in my life, I've heard, can't you just keep a job? Why don't you just settle into something? There's got to be something that you can focus on. Focus is a good word. I love that one. And I can't. My introduction is up on the screen behind me. And it's crazy. The best part about understanding the Enneagram and moving into some form of health in that is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm crazy. I'm really thankful that any type 7 is actually here. You might be hungover, but you're here, so thank you. Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and I understand the struggle that you went through this morning. Getting out of bed was total and utter hell for you. So thank you very much for being here. The words on the screen are true. Our core motivating factor is fun. Nothing exists if it isn't fun. I don't care about your lists. I don't care about your rules. I don't care about the boxes. And I'll take them all so long as I can dance in them. That really is all we care about. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me. And the next one. I'm really glad that Angie told me I couldn't cuss. So I did the best I could. Man, I'm really grateful to be up here. It's such an honor to be able to do this. Obviously, being a 7, speaking and entertaining are some of my favorite things to do. And so as I've traveled through this journey with you, we keep asking the question, well, what does this mean? Every week, Angie or Aaron or whoever is speaking is getting up, trying to quickly get us to understand what the Enneagram is. What is it? How does it help? Next slide, please. There's a story in Romans chapter 7 where the Apostle Paul is saying, what I want to do good, I don't. What I don't want to do wrong, I do it anyway. Oh my God, it's the sin within me that does it. The strongest, most helpful thing that you can take away from the Enneagram is it totally and utterly removes these words from the narrative. If you will wrap your head around what the Enneagram is, it doesn't matter what your type is. You have the ability to outlive something that is scriptural. It doesn't have to be this way. And let me tell you that being a type 7, this was my justifying piece every time I did something really dumb. I don't know, I just have this sin nature that's in me. It's crazy. And I'm not saying that there isn't that. I'm not saying that we don't wrestle and struggle as humans. I'm just suggesting that if you will pour into the idea of self-discovery, you really can write a line through these words. It doesn't have to end with, I'm not really the one doing wrong. It is sin living in me that does it. What it can be is, I'm really, really ultra self-aware, and I actually know why I did that. Or, I know how to avoid doing that now. We, as type 7s, love to eat and drink everything. Primarily the good things, but any of it, really. And so one place where this is for me is there's been times in my life where I've woken up hungover and been like, man, how did I get here? 7 shots of whiskey will do it. Like, I don't mean to make jokes about something so serious with our own lives, but it's true. We don't have to ask this question over and over and over and over and over and bang our heads against the religious wall about it. Next slide, please. One of there are people in the Bible who are Enneagram types. I don't know why I danced with my hands to explain that. The woman at the well. It's a really simple, short, wildly concise illustration of a type 7. Jesus is sitting, she comes up, he asks for some water. She says, why are you talking to me? I'm a chick, and I live in Samaria. You shouldn't do that. And he's like, yeah, but I'm thirsty. And they go through this interaction, and he mentions better water. He mentions a living water. So for a type 7, she's like, wait, there's water there, but you have better water? Tell me, sir, about this better water that you have that would lead me never to thirst again. That's a real thing. I have other notes that are right here. Found them. So they're going through this interaction, and Jesus says, actually, go get your husband to help draw some more water. I don't have one. You're right, you don't. You've had 5. And the man that you're living with now is not even your husband. There's an illustration there about type 7's inability to commit sometimes, their inability to want to try everything. In this example, in this illustration, it's wanting to try everyone for her, but wanting to try everything. What Anthony said in the video is right. I know how to do a lot of things. None of them am I an expert at, except having fun. The guitar is an example. My daughter plays the guitar, and so I'm learning to do that again. And somebody asked me the other day if I play the guitar, and I was like, sort of. I can do anything, sort of. Thanks. Glad you got it. But in this moment where Jesus in some way calls her out and says, you're right, you don't have one, you've had 5, and the man you're with now isn't even your husband, what he didn't do was shame her. But what he said is, what you have just said is quite true. And what he's referencing is her ability to say, I don't have a husband. Because she could have. She could have gone to get the man who was living with her and said, listen, dude, you got to pretend to be my husband because that's what I called you. And she didn't. And for type 7s, that is not easy to do. The hardest thing for us to do actually is sit in the midst of a really painful moment without dancing. We hate it. Vulnerability is really, really difficult. Not experiencing the pain necessarily, but just sitting down into the pain is very difficult. And I love that Jesus honored her in this way and didn't shame her in this illustration. They then discussed spirit and truth. Where do we worship here or do we worship where you are? Because our ancestors have a thing here that we worship here, and Jesus just sort of silences her and says, there will come a day where we will worship in spirit and truth everywhere. Jerusalem, Samaria, America, Africa. It'll happen everywhere. And so for the 7 brain, what Jesus allowed her to do was be free. There now was no restriction for where she could worship, which, if you would understand a 7, will actually make them worship. When you take the box away, we can sit in the box. It's when you put the box around that we're kicking and screaming and fighting and digging a hole to get outside of the box. Suggest that we do something, maybe. But if you tell us to do something, see ya, even if we have a desire to do that thing. Lent is hard AF. And I have cheated. I have cheated on Lent. It's very difficult. I want to participate in Lent. But the fact that it is a box around me, I'm like, I swear to God, this happens in my brain and happened when I drank beer on a day that I wasn't going to because beer is what I gave up. I was like, but if I do it today and I don't drink beer on Sunday, which is the Lent cheat day, maybe it's okay. Justified. Right into having that beer. The freedom for type 7s is amazing. And it's hard for a lot of other types. Particularly type 1s have a hard time with us. My daughter's tested as a type 1. And last week we were driving, and she goes, Dad, are you ready for your talk? And I was like, in my brain. And she goes, what does that mean? And I was like, well, she said, haven't you planned it out and written it out? And I was like, hell no, but it's here. And she goes, oh my God, Dad, that's such a type 7 thing to do. And I was like, yeah. So suggest, ask, don't tell. And I love that Jesus did this for the woman at the well. He told her to worship. He just told her she didn't have to do it in a confined set of geographical space or rule. When Jesus looks at her and she's talking about the Messiah and he says, actually, that's me. I was reading an old Bible that I have yesterday, preparing, the day before. And I wrote, that is unreal. That moment in time is unreal. Should Jesus have been who he said he was, and should this woman have actually been there having this conversation about the Messiah, and he says, actually, that's me. What? Selfie! I'm in. That moment in history is so bananas. So bananas. And I love that that's how Jesus ended, really, his interaction with her. Because what he didn't tell her to do is go and sin no more. What he didn't tell her to do was kick the man out of her house. What he didn't tell her to do was anything other than I am he. And then, in true Seven fashion, she ran and told everybody that she could find. She was like, I found him. You want to know? I found him. Guess what? He's over here. He's told me everything I ever did in my life. Found him. We're often known as the enthusiast. This lady was enthusiastic because Jesus had to stay in Samaria for 2 extra days. Because the amount of people that she told to come and see, come and witness, be here with this guy. Da, 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 I found him. Such a beautiful story. Next slide, please. Oh my God, it's such a beautiful story. So then to go into a couple of the details about how crazy we sevens really are. Our stress movement is the black and white piece of a type 1. When I'm stressed out, which thankfully doesn't happen that often, I move to everything is black and white. I'm going to live, I'm going to die, I'm broke, I'm rich, everything's going to fall apart, everything is beautiful and put back together. It is very, very, very black and white when I'm stressed. I don't see color very well there. When I'm healthy, I was having a conversation not too long ago with somebody, and I said, surprisingly, I don't have to be the center of attention all the time. They were like, right. And I was like, no, what I mean is, because I do, what I mean is I don't have to fight people to be the center of attention anymore. I can allow somebody else to sing and dance when I'm in the room. I didn't used to be that way. I used to be like, listen, I dance better than you. And it used to be very competitive for me. And now, gracefully, in some growth over the last handful of years emotionally, I'm able to just sit back and watch somebody else entertain a room. And that's that type 5, the observer. I'm able to sit back and just take it in instead of forcing myself on people, which is why most people get overwhelmed by sevens. One of the statements that I read that was wildly true is people love sevens for this amount of time and then go away to some other group until I'm ready to be entertained again. So we really are like the dancing monkey. Our vice is addiction and gluttony. This actually plays out in 2 very, very different ways for a 7. Because of the emotional piece, that we don't like to sit in the muck. 7s as parents can be the people who say, not my kid. It's not my child out there doing that. It's not my daughter sending those pictures on Snapchat. Nope, not mine. We don't want to deal with the idea that it could impede on our fun or our life. Nope. So in the emotional state, that vice is really hard. So it's healthy for 7s to learn how to say, yep, that could be my kid. Or yep, this is, vulnerability, go get it. This, I'm going to tell you about myself. I gave up beer for Lent. I did not give up booze for Lent, just beer. It was a caloric thing, not an alcohol thing. And because my vice is gluttony, most 7s will appear to be addicts of whatever it is that they love. They could be addicted to the fun, the people, they could be addicted to booze, they could be addicted to food, they could be addicted to whatever it is that they're into because we just love it. We love it. I'm not saying that we aren't addicts. I'm not saying that that isn't the bend for us. I'm just saying that even if you aren't, you would appear to be one to most other people. Most people would say, why do you have to drink whiskey every day? The response from a 7 is, why wouldn't you? It's there and it's delicious. So why wouldn't you? Why do you have to drink 36 cups of coffee? Why don't you drink 36 cups of coffee? Our virtue is easily misunderstood as well. I've had some friends recently, one of them very graciously said, before understanding the Enneagram and knowing that you were a type 7, I had a really hard time understanding you. I didn't understand why you would do things. Now knowing that and knowing you, it's much easier to be your friend. What, you want to move with no notice? Crazy. You want to move again? Wild. And you're moving again. The virtue that we have that can be often misunderstood because we're bouncing a lot. We want to learn how to paint, we want to learn how to sew, we want to learn how to type, we want to learn how to play the guitar, we want to learn how to rock climb, we want to learn how to do everything. That our vision and our ability to be innovative is often misunderstood for an inability to follow through. Again, I'm not saying we have the ability to follow through. I'm just saying it's often called, they're just unable to follow through with that, so they're going to this. When really, at least in my life, I'm the strongest person in the room if I'm just allowed to think. And if I'm just allowed to tell you how beautiful the colors could be, and somebody else can put those colors into motion, there is not a human on the planet that is better than me at that. And it's often misunderstood, especially by some other types who like rules and structure and steady and all of those things. I don't even know how to spell structure, let alone live inside of it. I'm kidding. If you are a 7 and you're in the room, I'll do this in reverse order. If you're not a 7 and you're in the room, that's most of you. Be gracious to the 7s that you meet as you understand the Enneagram. Please. Not because we need to be coddled, but because everybody tells us that we're immature. Everybody else tells us that we can't focus and that we can't stay in our lane and that we have an inability to follow through. Trust us. We get it. Oh my God, do we get it? Because it isn't just you telling us, it's us telling us as well. After so many years, surprise, after so many years of being told, why can't you just stay in this job, in this path, in this whatever? And now understanding that it's because I don't need to. That's what makes me stronger as a type 7, when I understand that I don't need to stay. There are 8 other types who will stay. You don't need me to. There's such immense freedom in understanding that. So please be gracious to your type 7s. If you are a 7, let me encourage you with this. You are absolutely banana sandwich crazy. Deal with it. Deal with it. Not crazy like they're crazy. Crazy like it's beautiful what's happening in here. Don't let it destroy you. If you work a job that you hate, quit that thing and go be as 7 as you can be, unless you have bills to pay. Then create a plan. I've used so many foreign words today. Oh man, this is so much fun. I'm a 7 with an 8 wing, which means I not only am crazy, but I'm aggressive. I don't do stress very well. I don't like rule. I had somebody ask me the other day, how do you organize something? And I laughed. I legitimately was like, Uh, I don't. My organization is not having any. Um, I think I'm just crossed the middle line of health. I would like to give myself that much credit. Unhealthy sevens can be really scary people because they don't know how to turn it off. You guys have mentioned every week that the centering prayer and the things that can help all of us. Here's the beautiful piece of all of us being all types, is that our fears are the same. None of us want to be misunderstood. None of us like to be left with our own thoughts. None of us like to be doubted or criticized or shamed for who we are. None of us want that. And so the things that help a type 1 or a type 2 or a type 4, I get confused as a 4 a lot as well. People are like, oh my God, you roll your pants, you're a 4. I'm like, I'm actually not, I'm a 7. Give me a microphone and you'll find it out. We all need to be centered. It's the growth aspect of being a human. Centering prayer, meditation, those things are good for all of us because our fears are all the same, but it's how we play them out that is different. When one type may have that 6, may retreat, we just dance. We feel the same fear. We just play it off like it's fun, which can be really annoying. I'm really grateful for the opportunity, thank you, to share what it is like to be a 7. The Enneagram has been such a weird thing because I talk about it a lot. You can go to the last slide. I talk about it a lot, and most people are really confused when I try to explain what the Enneagram is, and I've learned how to create language around it that makes it digestible, I hope. And that language has been around, we're just all humans, right? And it isn't that we're just all broken. It's that we have bends in particular ways. And it's understanding how you bend and how far you can flex so you don't break. Doesn't matter what type you are. It's the most peaceful thing that you can do is set yourself into a space where you're learning about the person in the mirror. Doesn't matter your type, doesn't matter your age, your race, how much money you make, none of that matters. If you can look at the person in the mirror and not think they're a total douche, you're winning. It's not a cuss word, right? I'm still good. I said it and I was like, oh God. Mama Angie gonna get me. That peace is something that I pray for all of us. My only prayer for each type, for each and every one of us, is that we continually ask God for help. Not help to be less broken, help to be more revealed to ourselves and to the people around us in our most full extent. Worship team can come back up. After this, if you have questions about the Enneagram, if for the last handful of weeks you've been like, that's great that they keep talking about this, and the symbol's kind of cool, I still don't get it. I'm going to do just a short Q&A in the hall. It can be about type 7 stuff. It can be about the Enneagram as a whole. You're welcome to join me or go eat lunch. If you're a type 7, you're going to go eat lunch. Let's not be silly. Thank you guys for being patient with learning through this process. I know that Aaron and Angie and the rest of the staff, the rest of the humans with one church, care deeply about not just the inclusive love of God, but the all understanding that the human brain can give itself when it looks internally. And so thank you. And my ending prayer is simply, God, please help us.